Let's talk about who is the better investment for your account. Is it Feixiao or Robin? We have many different categories, and I promise you, as with all of our videos that we do, these comparison videos, we will be super unbiased, just logical comparisons. Only right at the end of this video, if you care about my own personal thoughts, I'll share it there as well. But you know, we don't waste any time on this channel, so let's go ahead and jump right into current value. Now, current value talks about right now because you're spending all your premium resource. You want to know exactly what are you getting out of these two characters right now and who offers more bang for your buck in terms of helping you progress, fitting into more teams. The easiest way to summarize this is any team that Feixiao wants to play in right now, Robin is probably very important. But Robin's teams don't necessarily have to have Feixiao, and that is like a very big overview of the whole thing. Let's now look in terms of the 8 teams of Honkai Star Rail. This makes it much more clearer. Highlighted boxes here, as you can see, one is supposed to be green, one is supposed to be purple. Apologies for any colorblind folks out there, but they overlap. These two characters overlap in terms of their team compositions they play in almost completely. Whether you are fast follow-up attacking team composition that you're trying to build, Robin, Feixiao both play in the same category. Fast and often, both of them play in the same category. Hyper carry, both of them play in the same category. Support, Robin can be played there too. Doesn't mean that Robin cannot be used anywhere else. These are just the team compositions that she excels most in right now, and her kit is designed to help. But the lack of better supports in other categories, for example, a lack of a powerful DOT support, mix like characters like Ronmei and Robin still decent in the DOT category, even though it might not be like really truly beneficial for that in the long run. So I just want to like highlight boxes that are very clear. The downside of looking at this box is, hey, they both seem very competitive, they are both the same, but the irony is there are many other characters that fill in these slots that play with Robin, but Feixiao generally wants to have Robin to a very large extent as well. So it's a tough choice. If you're a free-to-play player trying to make a decision, you only can pull one, I would say it's hard. So in terms of current value, they both play in the similar teams. They both are very strong. One of the key things about Feixiao that I think puts her at a slight advantage is she is excellent for players, people who join the game after Doctor Ratio. A lot of the people you will see in a lot of comment sections all around the internet will tell you, Feixiao not that interesting, Robin is like way better, the value of Robin is like way higher. A lot of these people have been playing for a really long time and they probably got the free Doctor Ratio. If you are a newer player into the game and you missed out on the free Doctor Ratio, not to worry anymore because Feixiao is way better in the team compositions that Doctor Ratio plays in, for example, together with Robin. But any of you who came before and got like Doctor Ratio for free, Robin actually goes up in value a little bit more. So I would say that is the key split. If you do not have Doctor Ratio on your account, a character like Robin goes down in value. Feixiao becomes very unique, very interesting. She anchors you in a lot of different categories. If you have Doctor Ratio, I would say Robin's utility in terms of current value goes up a little bit more because you already have like a hunt character. You can complete like your follow-up team compositions if you add Robin to your Doctor Ratio. So very key differential depending on when you join the game. Newer players after Doctor Ratio, Feixiao I think is more attractive, especially since Feixiao is super versatile. If you talk about current value in the game, Feixiao is probably one of the most versatile units that is in Honkai Star Rail because any character on your team that attacks, she is able to add additional damage on top of that. So she's not necessarily a single target character. Every time your teammates attack, she can like follow up attack, join in the fight. She stacks her out. She does a lot of ultimate damage, weakness breaking on enemies that is colorless, meaning she can hit across all elements, making her very strong for any type of content. If you were to think about a hunt character, the embodiment of an excellent hunt character really is Feixiao. A character that is super fast, can hit many different times, hits very often, very quick as well, and is also able to take on any single target enemy with a colorless weakness breaking and fits very flexibly into many team compositions. Feixiao, super good. The downside. Now let's talk about the downside here as we compare both of them. And Feixiao is of course easy to criticize compared to Robin, who is already tried and tested, who has gone like a slightly longer way. So let's talk a bit more about the new character Feixiao first. The downside that a lot of people are saying, and the biggest reason why people are saying like, no, do not pull this character, is one, for example, you have a lot of other characters that are similar to her in terms of the teams that she plays in. Or number two, she's hunt. One of the biggest things that I hear in the game community, in the comments that we have been putting out on the channel, a lot of people keep saying, Feixiao is hunt, so she must be, she's not good, she's not going to be very useful, single target, single target. Let's rewind into the days and remind you that the meta is always changing. Before Pure Fiction was introduced in the game, Erudition was practically like totally out of meta. For any of you who were with us as the game launched on day one and even in the CBTs way before, you will know Erudition was always a bit lackluster. Since Pure Fiction game mode came about, characters like Argenti, Himiko, Herta begins shining. There was days where people laughed at Herta because she absolutely did no damage. The laughers now are just silent. So that is a very, very huge change. And similarly for Hunt, we have a game mode like Apocalyptic Shadow, which is designed for a very, very big chunky boss, and things can change, meta can change. It's impossible for any class in the game, any path in the game to be out of meta for too long. So if you do not have a solid one, for example, like I wouldn't even say Zila to a large extent, like Boot Hill maybe, like you don't have Doctor Ratio, very, very well built, very well invested. Feixiao anchors you in one of the path categories already, which is very, very strong, helping you build into the 8 teams of Honkai Star Rail, especially if you're looking to go into these few teams. She anchors you there, and the thing is, even though Robin, and let's talk a bit more about current value for Feixiao, even though you do need Robin a lot in terms of team comp building, she can make do with a lot of other characters, especially free or 4-star characters, not free characters, like Hanya, like Esther. You can make do with these. Although, of course, Robin is best in slot, but there are cheaper proxies available. If you are interested in more team composition theory of like what are the different teams you can use, not only just follow attack, super versatile, can play to many teams, you can check the video out on our channel, Best Teams for Feixiao. I think you'll find it much more helpful than people that just say Robin only play Robin. That is not quite true, but Robin is her best in slot support for many, many reasons. So then comes the flip side. Robin is I would say, talking about Robin and Feixiao from Robin's perspective, the key selling point is one has been tried and tested. You already have statistics, you already have seen how the character has performed, her versatility. You have a lot of people making guides already on the thing. Talk about pros and cons. You have a lot of detailed instructions for this particular unit, and you have seen a bit of track record. Versus a character that is of a slightly riskier thing, Hunt, so it's a bit of uncertainty picking a Hunt if you are of that camp of mind that maybe Hunt is not the best unit. She's of course coming into a slightly unusual meta, being in a relatively competitive space if you have Doctor Ratio already. This is the path less traveled, definitely Feixiao. Does seem a little bit more risky. Robin is definitely way more safe. So in terms of current value, if I were to decide who offers better investment value for your account, if let's say you have Runmei, you have Sparkle, you have or Akirion in one side already. Akirion is in your other side with your Jiao Qiu in the other side. Robin might not offer you tremendous amount of value because you are already flooded with 3 like supports, and you're probably only going to be using like 1 Harmony, and then the other side is probably going to be using Nihility. So you really don't need like too many characters. It's nice to pull many Harmony characters, but your account will be flooded, and if they rotate into a Nihility meta or rotate out of Harmonies, because once a path becomes too OP, they will eventually want to shut it down so they can sell other things. So you don't want to overload all your eggs in one Harmony basket here. It's the philosophies of like hedging your bets, hedging your risks. Too much of a good thing might become a bad thing in the long run. But I think as your investment advisor here, I think that's one of the key risks. But of course, then again, no one can convince you if you think that you want to collect all the great characters right now. I don't think there's anything stopping you, but I just want to point out certain key risks that Honkai Star Rail has been known, or Hoivers has been known to do to rotate things out of the meta eventually. But yeah, safest route, I would give it to Robin. I think it's just simple and cleaner to explain. If I were to throw a stone in the public right now, most people will benefit from Robin, and it's a much safer bet for recommendation. However, you would see towards the end of the video when I include certain of my own thoughts, Feixiao is not to be trifled with. For certain situations, in the current value even, especially if you're a newer player, I would rank Feixiao slightly ahead, especially since that she's very flexible to play. She can help you carry your account in the earlier parts, especially if you do not have Doctor Ratio, then you are not echoing the same comments that everyone on Reddit or other platforms are saying, because these players have been playing for a really long time. I just want to clarify that. So current value was the longest section, and I think it will likely be the longest section because it was the key differential between both of them. Now let's speed up on their remaining categories, the first one that we want to talk about is also in the current game state alternatives. We touched on it briefly already, but Robin actually does have some sort of alternatives. She has characters like Runmei. They are very competitive, although recently Robin has been growing a lot more popularity, especially with the arrival of Feixiao. Robin's value just like shoots up. So now I would say like with the arrival of Feixiao, I would rate them almost on par in terms of overall utility. Before that, Ranmei was like, wow, number 1 best in slot because she can play into break, which was super meta for a brief period of time. Now with a Akirion-like level of Feixiao, Robin actually becomes super, super valuable. And then again, the fact is that you have a decent alternative in these two categories. You can work with both of them more or less okay. You will not suffer having one or the other. In fact, if you have one or the other, you are quite happy where you are. But you do want to pick up one or the other. So that's the first key thing. These two, choose one, I think is very, very useful for majority of people. If you have both, great. Happy for you as well. On the other hand, you have other supports. If you are talking about team compositions that are action advancing, you are focusing on the fast moving teams. Esther is probably the closest proxy to Robin because Esther speed buffs the entire team and gives some sort of attack to the entire team as well when she uses a skill, gets the number of stacks. So you do have a 4-star proxy, not great, not fantastic, but you can get by with other characters if you are just looking to build teams and try it out. Esther is one of them. Hanya is another one, and she's more suited to a hyper carry because she mainly buffs one person, but she is very, very strong. If you are looking to build a hyper carry fast character, Feixiao actually doesn't mind Hanya too much, and she has actually came back to a game quite a bit, Hanya, because of Feixiao's arrival, and you will see her relevance increasing too. But other than that, the main camp that Robin is fighting in is with the Harmonies, and it's a very, very crowded space. So there are key alternatives that are in, but I would just want to point out that Robin is probably one of the best, if not tied together with Ranmei in all honesty and like logical comparison right now in the game state because of how much follow-up attacking got buffed. And talking about Feixiao now, Feixiao, if you're talking about her key competition, is mainly in her follow-up team compositions, which is likely going to be best in slot as of time of recording until more characters come about, which the slot that she replaces is Doctor Ratio. So if you do not have Doctor Ratio at all, there are no alternatives right now to Feixiao. But the problem is, a lot of us in the game, that maybe you watching the video as well, maybe 60% of us have been playing since Doctor Ratio has been around. So that puts a close competition. Do you really need another character like Feixiao right now? Or would you rather just pick up a safer bet and complete your Doctor Ratio teams so at least you can address certain content? It's a very tricky one. And I would say Feixiao offers a lot more versatility, but you can see that they are just selling you the solution of versatility and just making an Akirion level compared to Doctor Ratio that they gave you for free. So it's a tough choice, but newer players, if you do not have Doctor Ratio, the choice is clear. I think Feixiao is like, super good. There's very little people that actually compete with her in the same slot. Even a character like Boot Hill plays into totally different teams compared to Feixiao. You have to design like completely different teams. So logical comparison, alternatives wise, again, the key is when do you join? If you're a new player and you joined very recently, I think, and of course, at this point, like Feixiao competes with most other hunt characters and other DPS characters in the game. Like you could consider like she competes with anyone that deals damage, but there's no point like bringing in every single DPS and one by one comparing the alternatives here and there. I just want to talk about the major stuff that is going on to compare. If you are interested in like Akirion versus Feixiao, we have a video that dives deep into this one. The communities also share their thoughts. You can check it out on the channel. But if you are talking about alternatives between these two, the key point is when you join. If you're a new player, the fundamental alternatives, you likely don't have too many strong DPSs. Maybe you have Akirion on one side. Pulling Feixiao on the other side actually is very strong. You have Akirion on one half, you have Feixiao in the other half. You can build teams around Akirion to help her suit the meta, to like fit whether she needs a bit more AoE and stuff like that. Super easy to build, super flexible. Newer players, I think Feixiao has lesser alternatives that are of her level by far. If you are a slightly longer term player, I would say that apart from Ranmei, Robin is probably in a league of her own, in a very, very clear moving category as well. So depends, again, this is split depending on when you join the game. I think that is the key deciding factor here and a very, very important thing to consider. Now, moving away from like present, let's talk about the future, which is arguably the more important point here, because when you are purchasing characters, let's say you are spending your 180 pools, if you lose like 250-50s, hopefully I wish all of you luck, don't wish any of you bad, or maybe you're spending like $200 to get these characters. You want to know that these scale with time. You want to know that these actually go on a longer way. If they are better in future, or they are still not that good right now in the current value, they're a bit lackluster, future value actually tells us how they are in future, and maybe it's actually good to pick them up in future, or even not pick them up at all because they're going to get like power crap from certain criteria that we know in the game. So for both of these two, again, Robin has a very good track record. She has been outperforming. She came into the game as one of the strongest supports in the game, competing with the likes of Sparkle and Runmei, and she has shown over time that she is outperforming. She's gaining on these two characters over time because of the buffs that Hoyoverse is throwing at her. They seem to be not done selling, and eventually, if you have other characters released in the game, she might even get even stronger too in the camps that she is in. So I would say strong track record, very, very successful character already, and probably will play into the follow-up team competitions that are moving in future. And even though this is a VS video, these two are actually symbiotic. They work and help each other up. Without one or the other, their success wouldn't be where they are today. If Feixiao wasn't around, I would actually argue Runmei may be slightly ahead of Robin because of how strong break teams and the many teams that Runmei can play in. But because of Feixiao right now, Robin actually got a huge bump. So symbiotic, they help each other out. So it's not a divisive comment that I want to make. They actually are better for each other. But because this is a choose one video, we don't have unlimited resources. Feixiao's future value is of that of a DPS. A DPS character generally faces more competition over a longer period of time. We see that with DPSs, for example, like Jingliu, who was super strong on a league of her own. Everyone was like, whoa, she has so much crit damage, she gives so much crit rate on herself. She suited the meta of her time, and she was like considered a league of her own. Everyone thought she was super strong. Similarly, Feixiao will be released at a time that she will be very strong. But in the long run, 6 months, 1 year out from now, you will have your team's rotation. And how we have seen it so far is 1.0 patch, right? And since we are talking about future value, we have to look at the past to understand what might happen in future. 1.0 DPSs were mainly your Jingliu, your Imbibitor Lune, who conquered like the second half of the 1.0 patch. Your first half was like dominated with characters like Zila, maybe to some extent Jingyuan and stuff like that. These were like your 1.0 characters. And then after 2.0 Panacony came out, your 1.0 characters are still usable, but they like totally disappear. As we are approaching 3.0 and beyond, now we are like, put it bluntly, we are at 2.5. We're almost at the more than halfway mark wherever it is in. If it's 2.8, it's like 3.0. We might have a massive meta change, and that is one of the key downsides or the headwinds for a DPS like Feixiao released in the second half. Akirion was released in the first half, so she has a longer runway as they try to like cater the meta for 2.0. So that's one of the key issues that I want to talk about. Regardless of which, against these headwinds, so all the headwinds aside, she actually performs very well. Because she is very flexible, she can be played into a lot of teams, can be played with free-to-play characters already. For example, like March 7, you can play with Moze as well. All the new characters in the game, they are very strong. You don't necessarily need like her premium team, everything like 5 stars. So it will help you anchor your account if you're a new player. That will last you a long period of time and even longer than normal DPSs because of a colorless breaking. Similar characters that share this is like Boot Hill, to some extent Akirion with a colorless breaking, not a lot but some, and other weakness appliers, for example like Firefly. These units tend to outlive the normal DPS power creep cycle because they are still useful even if the enemy is like not resistant to your element, they can do something. Feixiao fits into this nice category and it's probably one of the most flexible characters out of these 3 units. I wouldn't even be surprised if one day she transitions to a sub DPS focused on weakness breaking, very similar to the way Xue is, and she's played as a sub DPS in a lot of team competitions, which just speaks on the flexibility of these units going in the long run. Just some things that I want to point out in this future discussion in terms of future value. So between the two, one has been tried and tested, one has a good track record, one is a bit newer and faces the typical DPS headwinds. The logical choice here would actually be to put Robin way ahead of Feixiao because of the DPS versus support logic. But as you can see, it's not as clear, and this character, Feixiao here, might actually withstand a bit more value in the long run compared to a lot of the other DPS characters. Future value aside, let's talk about potential. Now, potential is, instead of talking about game state, everything that is known, the meta, and even in future how the game is going to go, we turn and look at Hoyoverse as a company and their strategy of how they want to do their marketing. The first thing, the biggest thing of all that I think shifts this whole discussion in favor of Robin is Sunday. I'm apologies for any of you who didn't complete your Panacony, but if Sunday is still in the game, maybe you have a character that is coming out like Sunday, who knows? maybe Robin is going to pair very well with her brother, Sunday, and that is a very huge momentum shift. If you have a character like Sunday that pairs super good with Robin, you probably will be able to find another DPS, like even Mutzer or something, to slot in that last slot. Maybe Dr. Ratio, maybe a fast character like March 7 Hunt, or another Hunt character that comes out in future. Slot it in that last slot and you'll be like super, super strong. So because of the story lore power and the likelihood, the probability that Sunday is likely going to be of harmony or maybe synergizing together with Robin very well, it makes a lot more sense that Robin stands a lot more to gain in the near future, and she has been gaining non-stop since her release. A lot of new gear, a lot of new relics, a lot of new characters being released, a lot of support for follow-up team compositions as well, and her AoE push, she's one of the only supports that deals damage out of all of the Harmony characters, offering you a lot of value as well, and skills like with more investment, if you have an E1, does a lot more as well to help you like increase the damage of your overall team. Feixiao, on the other hand, she is a strong character. She plays into certain Xianzhou lore as well, but I do not think it's as strong as the reason for Sunday. And for this category, just because of that reason alone and the clear near-term benefits, I think Robin is like way better in terms of what Hoyoverse is trying to do in terms of strategy. Feixiao is not an, what do you call that? What's the word when you have another character coming from another Honkai game or another Hoyoverse game and like visiting? Akirion is like Raiden Mei, right? So there is incentive for Hoyoverse to keep her relevant a bit longer. Whereas Feixiao, I wouldn't think that she came from another game. She is more or less like a character like Kafka, who is like original-ish, not pulled from another game. So that is another reason that Feixiao might not live as long as a character like Akirion, who knows, because you still want to sell your is it called FC? I don't know. But this category, Robin wins for sure. I think that is quite clear to me at least. Next up, of course, last category before we talk about my own personal bias, and it's the free-to-play kit between the two of them. Free-to-play kit, what does it mean? These characters are fundamentally different when you're talking about E0S0 versus E0S1. The choice between both of them, supports always outperform a lot more at free-to-play level because you don't need too much of their like limited gear, you don't need their Eidolons. You can get by with E0S0 Robin, slap on free-to-play gear on her, and she will work fantastically well, super, super strong. Feixiao, on the other hand, DPS characters means that you generally see a gap in terms of output of damage versus your DPS units. But that being said, she does have access to a lot of free-to-play good light cones, even the Herta shop cruising in the Stellar Sea, which is the 5-star crit rate one. A lot of you are saying, I only have one of that and I have so many Hunt characters. You're probably only going to be using Feixiao most of the time, so just slap it on her. She's the best character to use that if you are looking for a Hunt character to use your best gear cruising the Stellar Sea. But yeah, good free-to-play options for a DPS character. Unfortunately, she just loses out to Robin. If you're talking about who's cheaper to build, DPS characters need more investment, needs more good gear, but they are going to carry your account because they are the ones dealing the most of your damage. It's tricky here because logically I would rate like Robin higher than Feixiao, but because of the game nature of Honkai Star Rail actually making Feixiao very cheap to build, you can go with free characters like Mark 7 Hunt, you can do with Esther in the same team competition, and even maybe other support characters at 4-star, and Feixiao will feel very comfortable to play also. I just feel more inclined because of the differential between of Feixiao versus other DPS characters to rank her ahead in the free-to-play kit versus Robin, who is like just a typical support who doesn't really need too much Eidolons. It's a known fact. So if you talk about comparing apple to apple, Robin is of course ahead. But if you're talking about characters compared to their peer group, Robin actually is about the same, whereas Feixiao outperforms her entire peer group, and that's where I think she is probably the clear leader. And at this point, I want to share with you my thoughts, and as you can see, I'm like hesitating in this category here. The logical choice is Robin over Feixiao. Like, that is the clear winner. But something in my heart tells me, and something that makes me feel like I want to be a bit brave and make a recommendation is, if you have a character like Runmei, I do not see a very compelling reason to pull for another Harmony character right now. Of course, if you do not have Runmei, the choice is clear. If you do not have Runmei, I would pull Robin in a heartbeat. But I have both Runmei and Robin, and I know that I can get by using Feixiao with other characters, as we talked about in our team comp video already. So if you have Runmei, I would say Feixiao is probably what I would recommend, and especially if you're a newer player, you do not have Doctor Ratio, Feixiao offers you a little bit longer way, helps you pull through your account. But then again, DPS characters don't go the long run because they tend to be power creep more. If you do not have Runmei, you do not have any Harmony units, Robin, clear choice. clear pick for me without a fraction of doubt. So head tells me Robin, heart tells me Feixiao. Depending on what you are aiming for, whichever you want to play, at the end of the day, I shared my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts as well, and we'll be happy to discuss with you guys too. Thank you again so much for watching. If you appreciate such content, share this with any of your friends who are deciding between these two very popular characters as well. You can only pull one, I guess. And thank you guys again so much for watching. See you next video.